I'm right outside of Brownell Hall, home of the Utah Symphony. Utah is renowned for its classical arts, the ballet, opera, and so much more. Meet a talented and determined local teen who turned to the arts to create her own unique vision and voice.
I'm Miro Johnson. I'm a composer, conductor, relatively competent violinist, and frequent tap dancer. And those are kind of the four elements, creative elements, that I'm navigating at the moment. For me, what I'm pursuing right now is essentially a musical language and logic that incorporates non-musical or multimodal elements because of my background in philosophy and storytelling and dance. By the age of, 12, 13, 14. That age right there is, even though it's quite young and very tender, that's kind of the age, because of the compressed timeline and lifespan of a dancer, that you really need to start taking it very seriously and training. And of course, that was the age that I suddenly had major injury after major injury. And I was just feeling like really inadequate and really incapable, and I thought, maybe, this is what I want to do, so why can't I do it, So I was really lucky when one day I just happened to tune into a Carnegie Hall broadcast of the Berlin Phil with Simon Rattle, and I believe they were doing Rachmaninoff symphonic dances, and something just clicked in that moment. I don't know what it was, whether it was the light that day or something, but I realized that this sound thing is amazing. Getting up on a stage with a bunch of other people and committing to a cause and cooperating together and being vulnerable and creating art in real time was really amazing to me, but obviously I had no idea what it actually meant. So I was just well, I don't know what this is. I guess I have to find out. So I just started pretty much just noticing, essentially observing. And we're very lucky to have the Utah Symphony here, and I took advantage of their student all-access pass and just went every single week, and eventually I started getting into rehearsals. And I taught myself to read full scores by borrowing them from the library, bringing them to concerts, and trying to connect the dots between this, there's the sound of what I hear, and then what I see them doing, and then there's this thing on the page, and how do these things relate? I was just really fortunate that someone took notice of me doing all this puzzling, what is this, and that person was Rei Hotoda, who was the associate conductor of the Utah Symphony at that time, and she, I guess, was just impressed by my enthusiasm and sheer, puppy dog excitement, essentially, because it was all so new to me and so exciting. She just kind of coached me and worked to develop a sense of what conducting really is, give me some experience, and then I was selected to be in the National Youth Orchestra as one of their 2 conductors in 2017. Composition just kind of naturally followed because suddenly I was really interested in the orchestra. And when I joined Utah Youth Orchestra, they just happened to have, for the first time, this young composers workshop. And thank God for Devin Maxwell. He changed my life.
4 years of composition lessons every week was a lot. But that's what I mean about her discipline. She's able to take what I talk about and apply it. I never looked at her like a 14-year-old. I just looked at her as another composer. Let's talk about music. She's thinking about sound. And I think with her, it's more that the avant-garde cleared the path for her to safely, comfortably think about sound.
it's a very vulnerable thing, both as a composer and as a conductor. You're putting both your mind and physically your body on display for people to judge, and orchestras do judge very, very harshly. And so it's a difficult thing, but it's worthwhile because the result is always spectacular. People often ask me like what my favorite sound is or what my favorite piece is. I always say the orchestra warming up. That's my favorite piece. You hear like the individuality of all the players coming through, and like there's a sense of recognition amongst the chaos. I love that moment, especially when it stops and there's just that silence. That's always a sound that puts me at ease before I have to conduct an orchestra, whether it's in a master class or a concert or even a rehearsal. I really love going out there and like being among musicians because it's very humanizing, and they have their individual wants and desires and needs and what they bring to each piece. It's a really beautiful moment. I'm proud to report I have a very healthy relationship with my parents. And they encouraged me to do a lot of different things. I really appreciate that as soon as they saw a talent, they didn't pick it and be like, that's what you're gonna do. They always made room for possibilities. And for that, I'm very grateful. I think the cultural scene here, like the aesthetic scene of having the Utah Symphony and the Utah Opera, the ballet, the two modern dance companies, the art museums, it's nice because it's a big town and a small city. It's small enough that I feel like my voice had room to grow and to fail and to make mistakes and to be heard. We should just feel very grateful every day that we get to do this for a living and for fun, and to remember that every concert's important because you never know whose first concert it is. There might be a 95-year-old man in that audience who's never heard this piece before. There might be a 4-year-old girl who's gonna look up on that stage and be like, I wanna do that.
Funding for This Is Utah is provided by the Willard L. Eccles Foundation, the Utah Office of Tourism, the George S. and Dolores Dory Eccles Foundation, the Lawrence T. and Janet T. D. Foundation, and the contributing members of PBS Utah. Thank you.